Fala pessoal, Pedro Delgado aqui, mais conhecido como Rato, e hoje estou como correspondente da SubSolo para fazer uma entrevista exclusiva com Dana Colley, saxofonista da Vapors of Morphine, e único membro remanescente também ativo na banda que fazia parte da Morphine. A Vapors vem para o Brasil para apresentação única em São Paulo no próximo dia 14 de fevereiro e a gente teve a oportunidade de conversar um pouquinho com ele, não só sobre a percepção dele sobre o Brasil e até sobre o show, mas também um pouco sobre a vida pessoal, a vida artística, sua carreira e muitas outras coisas que fazem desse bate-papo muito mais que especial. Então, sem mais delongas, vamos para a entrevista e aproveita e já deixa aí nos comentários o que você achou desse bate-papo.
So let's go. So, first things first, for those that are not familiar with yourself, even with regarding morphine and vapors of morphine, um, what can you tell us about your story, the bands, and the journey so far?
Well, let's see. Vapors of Morphine will be coming to Sao Paulo, and we are basically myself is the only member that represents a band called Morphine. And Morphine was a band that had a career from the 90s, early 90s, early late 80s, early 90s to 99 when our singer passed away, Mark Sandman. At that point, Billy Conway, the drummer, and myself um, formed Orchestra Morphine and was a nine-piece band to perform the music from the night. Um, but I'm going to go right up to the point of where we are now quickly, and then if you want to go back, we can talk more about Morphine. But essentially, we carried on after our singer and bass player and writer of the music passed away. We made one record prior to that happening called The Night, which was our last record. So it was Billy and I decided we needed to perform that record live because it really hadn't been performed live. So we put together a band from Mark's favorite musicians, a band called the Hypnosonics. That was a band that Mark would play with when he came off the road, which I was a part of, including Russ Gershon, Tom Halter, Mike Rivard on bass, um, both Jerome and Billy Conway on drums, Laurie Sargent on vocals, Aaron Harriman on keyboards, and Christian McNeil on vocals, and myself playing saxophones and singing. That band toured for a year, and in doing so, we also came to Brazil. We were able to come to Ouro Preto for a jazz festival with Orchestra Morphine, which was important to us because Mark was always wanting to take Morphine to Brazil because he had a very strong affection for Brazil. He'd lived here for some time and studied here and always wanted to bring the band there. So for us, it was important to bring Orchestra Morphine to Brazil, which we were able to do. Our intention was to play the festival where Mark passed away the following year in Palestrina, Italy, which we managed to do. And after that, the band dissolved, still remaining friends and in contact with one another. And Billy Conway and I decided to work together at High and Dry and tried to work making new music in the studio that was Mark's, called High and Dry, with Laurie Sargent. And that became Twine Men. That had an arc. We tried and we made several records and toured the country, toured Europe, bringing new music and a new band. And we pretty much did as much as we could with that. We weren't really getting anywhere. So that broke up, and then I formed a band called AKA COD with Monique Ortiz and Larry Durish. We made one record. That band, I wouldn't say broke up, but we just didn't really play much after that. We didn't make another record. We did a lot of local gigs, and well, we did get to Novi Sad uh, in Serbia at a festival called the Exit Festival, which you can find a YouTube of that performance, aka COD at Exit Festival. Uh, you can find that there. And then from there, we had the opportunity to go back to the festival in Palestrina called Nel Nom de Rock, 5 years after Mark passed away, and I was invited to put together a group, and I decided I wanted to do something in a trio format. And at that time, it was 2005, and Katrina is the hurricane that hit New Orleans in 2005, displaced thousands of people. One of those persons was a man called Jeremy Lyons, who found his way to Cambridge. And New Orleans has always been a favorite place of mine and the band. And when I heard that, when I saw what was happening there, my heart broke, and I was happy to help anyone I could. And Jeremy was in Cambridge and looking to play, looking to find his footing because he had been displaced. Jeremy and I met up, and our first drummer, Jerome, and Jeremy started playing together, and then we started playing together as a trio, playing Jeremy's songs mostly. And then this opportunity came, and I said, okay, let's go over and play some Morphine songs. Jeremy, do you want to learn some Morphine tunes? And that's pretty much how it started. And that went from members of Morphine to the ever expanding Elastic Waistband. And now someone said, who are you going to see? That band called Vapors of Morphine? And that stuck. It was a name that someone gave us, and we said, we'll take that. So that's who we are. And Jerome has stopped playing with us. He's gone on to do other things. And we have a drummer called his name is Tom Airy, and he's amazing. He's on Fear and Fantasy. And so that's where we have Vapors of Morphine. That brings everybody right up to speed.
Oh, that's awesome. And thanks for that. And actually, it was like a really big cover that you did. Uh, and I guess like the following questions will go back and forth regarding the past, but also the pretty much the present and future. But what I have for you is like the style of both Morphine and Vapors has always been very distinctive, as seen like even in the nickname of low rock. Um, but how did this creative process take place? Like how was like the initial thought of, hey, why not combine like the two string bass, the saxophone, and the drums? And okay, I'll stop here and hear what you have to say.
Well, I think, Mark was always been interested in stripping things down,
Okay.
literally music, ideas, poetry, instruments. And so it would make sense. I mean, Mark's band prior to Morphine was a band called Treat Her Right. I don't know if you're familiar, but also including Billy Conway and Jim Fitting on harmonica, David Champagne on slide guitar. Mark played bass with a guitar through an octaver, you know what I mean? By an
Yeah.
octaver, a box
Okay.
that makes it drop down an octave into an SVT cabinet. I don't know how if this is a music podcast or not, but it's a huge bass amp, very big, renowned as the bass amp. If you want a big, fat bass sound, so he would play through one of those, playing guitar through an octaver, but only playing two strings, two chords. You know what I mean? Like just the E and the A. And his bass lines would be very simplistic but full, and you would almost forget he was playing bass. So the idea that everything would be kind of simplified, and eventually I think he himself decided that it was easier to just take strings off and use the slide where he could move freely along with his voice, So you have a root note that's in tune. It's a D. That's a root note of D on the very low one. And happens to be my lowest, almost one step above the lowest note on the baritone. So they both kind of in the low range, right? Right from the lowest drop note. So the sound just kind of connected. You have one note, doom, you have two notes, doom, and you have a voice that comes across the top of it. So you have this kind of unison blend, but the unison can expand, it can fall off, you have the unison, you have the bass, you have the saxophone, and then you have the voice. And the saxophone can go to the bass or it can go to the voice. It can go, so it was able to travel through the ranges, and connecting the sounds and pairing with the sounds. And so they've left a lot of room for ideas. You don't have like one guitar playing all the notes in a chord. We had to create them by playing off each other.
Yeah. And would you say that that part would be like the most challenging of taking
No, no, it's more simpler and it makes everything simple. And there's just, you think about, a combination lock. You know what I mean by a combination
yeah,
lock? You've got three numbers, right?
yeah,
It's three numbers. But how many options do you have from 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 10, or 1 to 9?
a lot of room for
There's like, and there's so many combinations that you can come up with. Uh, and if you're listening, it's uh, it's happening in the moment and it's becoming intuitive and it's improvisational.
so it's something that pretty much clicked around ago.
Yes.
All that.
Yes. And it was a matter of development from then, getting Jerome to join the band and having drums and having enough song ideas to go, stand on a stage and play a set.
Yeah.
So, then it just went from there.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And what about like the other thing that really strikes to me that's really impressive is your technique of playing two saxophones simultaneously. Like how it's like how that happened as well. It's like how the process to incorporate this kind of element, and despite of your experience is something that still have a kind of level of difficulty to it, or no, it's
Uh,
like
it depends. I mean, sometimes it can be tricky, but the actual technique itself is not difficult. It's it's like, playing two whistles at the same time, it's not hard. Your brain wants to do it. I'll show you.
okay,
Like, you know, I got two whistles here, right?
yeah.
It's just a matter of like this.
All right, all right. I mean, speaking for myself, I see like it will be a struggle for me, probably, but it's awesome. Like
Do you
visually,
play, do you play
right?
saxophone?
No, I don't play nothing at all. That's why for me
Then
it's
it will be a struggle for you. Yes.
yeah. I mean that's why
But anyone who played the saxophone would know, yeah, if you have two saxophones, you can get it. But the trick is wrapping a song around that idea because you have limitations, right?
oh,
So
okay,
you don't have every note on the instrument because you need two hands for every note to get it. So you only have the ones you can get to on
okay.
this hand, and the ones you can get to on this hand. So if you listen to super sax or radar, it's like the sound you're getting when you're getting just the three notes up here on both horns, the tenor and the baritone.
Oh, that's interesting. But would you say that because of the room of possibilities that we were talking about earlier, that kind of not make that doesn't make like a kind of barriers, like it just keeps the flow going?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, you need to practice it a little bit and make sure that your notes are in tune. And then, the more you do it, the more musical it will become. It's kind of a thing where it's a sound and then the trick is maybe to get it to be music.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. And moving forward more towards like musical references, what would you say that not only kind of were and are your current references, but do you guys have any more contemporary influences in your set, like on your composition? How is like this part of realm, for so to say?
In terms of musical influences, in terms
Yeah,
of
yeah.
band, in terms of each person, in terms of mark in terms of like the band Morphine or the Vapors of Morphine? How?
I would say like more towards like other bands not only other bands, but kind of other genres as
Oh, you mean has Morphine, what bands have influenced other bands? Or what Morphine has influenced other bands?
No, no.
Or to me,
Currently marked towards like vapors of morphine. What would you say that are the reference for you guys on your
oh,
compositions, the things that kind of help give more creatively, and if there are like more current references, like for maybe some genres or even like other bands that are more contemporary that help you guys on this
yeah,
creative.
sure. I think there's a lot out there, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I listen to that I don't necessarily feel like I want to emulate, but I enjoy listening to it, right? So
Yeah, for
those
sure.
that kind of feeling of listening to music that you like, that you think, well, you know, I wouldn't make that, but I like to listen to it. I think it still comes through you and comes into your music the way you play. So I think that's happening all the time. That's why I listen to music is to have that kind of, you know, relationship with what other people are thinking and what other people are doing musically that wouldn't be anything that I would choose or do or be capable of doing, you know, but it's still, it's part of my influence. And
And
you know, so
what kind of music are you listening nowadays?
a lot of classical, you know, yeah, a lot of African stuff, a lot of reggae stuff, a lot of groove stuff, a lot of instrumental things like glass beams. Have you heard the glass beams? That kind of
No,
vibe.
I haven't.
Um, uh, you know, whatever I can find, you know, whatever pops up. I have a bunch of old records I love to listen to. The Tragically Hip, Gord Downey's solo work, you know, Ella Fitzgerald, you know, it does, you know, whatever you have, I'll listen to it for the most part. Good music mostly, you know, Joe Beam, I listen to you know, anybody, you know. I love there's a singer from Brazil, her name is Rosalia de Souza, which I love their record that she made. There's one in particular, it's amazing. Um, you know, what that's it's a long list
It's a long list. Yeah, I hear you. And how that adds up to your personal composition style? Do you have kind of a method, or it's like more like go with the flow? How that like kind of go to you?
you know, I for the most part, when I'm feel like I'm in a creative space, it's mostly working with someone else who's got a song they want me to record on, and I can do it here. So somebody will send me something, and they want me to play on it, and I in many cases what they want or looking for is a sax solo. And what I'm not really want to do that. It doesn't interest me to do a sax solo. So I find that I get into a creative place by using different approaches to recording, you know, and for other projects mostly. Um, and when we're working with when we make records for Vapors, it's the same feeling. It's like I think recording for me is probably where I get to explore that as much as you know, in terms of where I have my musical imprint.
Interesting. So would you say that you get more creatively as you construct build something alongside other people? Like,
Absolutely, that's the idea. Music is like for me anyway. You know, I've often, you know, created my own things, but I don't. It's not something I would want to necessarily play again, or you know, you know, I haven't got to a place where I can say, okay, here you go. This is my music. Play this, everybody. I'm in a band right now called Le Prestige, where the bass player has written a bunch of great music, and he says, "This is play this, everybody." And it's a chart, and I play my part, and he plays his part, and then we have this big improvisation in the middle, and it's a lot of fun, you know. I would love to be able to get to that kind of level of a compositional standpoint where you could, like Zappa, of course, or anybody, but that's not where I learned to, that's not where I'm coming from, and I'd have to learn that. So maybe I still can.
Yeah, for sure. But that's really interesting it's something that should be obvious, but I'm not sure if it really is that part, like of how music in the end of things is kind of about bonding and creatively create with other people and what comes out of it. So it's something really, really beautiful to think about it for a second.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the basis of rock and roll in a weird way, and how rock maybe has evolved in terms of what we know and the process of making records and being, recording these records. And it's we've got comfortable with the medium now in terms of recording, that we can compose using this medium. And that was kind of how there's a certain approach that is untrained, right? It comes from the garage or something, or the do-it-yourself. And you learn what you have to learn to get to the next place, and you come to a band and then you say, oh, I can do this, you can do that, you can do that. Oh, we make this thing that's better than any of us can do on our own, and that's why we have bands, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah. And what would you say that, like, okay, so you came together, you create music that manifests and projects towards let's say the audience, right? And in your point of view, what would you say that it's kind of the overall experience from the audience? What usually you perceive that people like kind of absorbs and give it back
Yeah,
to you in that sense? Like how is like that kind of perception of yours?
it depends on the audience, it depends on the setting, obviously,
Yeah.
I think we've played, I think for most, we played in a lot of different places, a lot of different settings. We played at bars, we played at, where nobody really paid much attention, at all, had their backs to us. But by the end of the night, everybody was like, yeah, play one more song. So there's like all kinds of different levels of audience participation and interest, I think here in the US, there are so many, we're so used to just kind of American music that we support each other, we support the music, but it's mostly musicians and small subculture of music of listeners that are at the same shows every weekend, And we have a small tight community that we like. Tonight I'll be playing a little bar down the street here from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Little tiny place, it's called the Bosstown Heavy. People come in from all over the place, and it's not like they pay attention to us, but they're having a good time too, And that it's a different band, it's a different setting, and that's kind of what it is in most cases, We'll play a theater, but Vapors will play a theater. Tomorrow night we're playing a theater called the Boston City Winery, which is a bigger show venue with tables and waiters and people will be sitting down. So that will be interesting. We played in theaters where people are standing up and dancing, and we played in Sao Paulo on the street where it's all you could see was people forever, you know,
Mhm.
and everybody's just having the best time. So that's it all depends. So we do the same, we do the same thing either way, we try to bring it. We enjoy playing together. That's the thing. We enjoy having fun for ourselves, and I love playing with these guys. And the idea of actually coming and touring, playing Brazil and playing in Argentina and Chile, it's been a long time since we've done this, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I think like kind of something around almost 8 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, it's kind of even a question I have more towards the end, but I think that I'll bring it now. Like, you guys have. I mean, you mentioned a little bit earlier about kind of this story with Brazil, and I had like this feeling that it seemed that you guys have kind of a special connection with Brazil, and over the years that you guys came here, have you felt like there were kind of an impact that you had by the culture, by the people, by the shows? How was like this kind of overall experience?
It's kind of it's mind blowing. It's a whole different world compared to what we live in. The it there's such a rich fabric of people living in like a place like Rio. It's mind boggling. Um, and yet there's a lot of people who are very poor, but seem to me to be very happy, or at least find a way to celebrate life, despite the fact they may be poor. Um, there's a joy of life that I find that I think people who may have more don't seem to find. And I don't know where else in the world I've seen it illustrated is so, you know, fully than Brazil. And it's a reminder to all of us, I think, how what matters, what really truly matters at the end of the day is, your family and your friends and taking good care of each other and enjoying each other as much as we can while we're here.
Yeah, for sure. And regarding like the touring, you also mentioned like how excited you guys kind of were for it, but even not only Brazil, but in these like more recent years, you guys like kind of didn't tour that much over the like the world, let's say, and that was like kind of a thoughtful like kind of pause, or there was like something that happened that led you guys to not like do much of touring for the past few years.
Yeah, it's called life,
For sure.
that thing.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Paying bills and having a job and, having kids and, um, trying to hold down the fort and also, not really having an infrastructure. We don't have a big management team. We don't have a booking agent who has connections. We don't have, a publicist who's working it. We don't have, we're just not, we're not in that on that level as a group. We get together when we can, we play, we do the best we can, we try to give the best show we can, and we go back to our lives.
Yeah.
Um, and so that in many cases, it's just what we've had to do. Would we like to be full-time musicians? Probably, but it also means that it comes at a cost. You don't get to be with your family when they need you, and it's been important for me to be around, and to kind of do it. Ideally, it would be nice to be able to do it in short little segments along the way. So, but and to make money on the road, you have to tour all the time, and you gotta kind of just keep the wheels rolling.
Yeah. And I can only imagine that it takes a toll as well, like
Yeah.
for sure.
So we have to kind of pick our battles, and not necessarily a battle, but to be able to choose wisely in terms of our time that we devote to it and where we're playing and making it worthwhile for the effort that goes into it and the sacrifices that go into it.
I hear you. And as far as like this whole process of being on a band, touring, and like having this whole experience, uh, and also like with the long career that you guys had, do you see any changes in the way audience interact with art and music today compared to the previous years? And if so, does that impact your work at all, like both in studio or maybe even on stage?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, automatically that makes me think that, how different things have become, and in large part due to this device right here,
Yeah.
where we are, we can instantly know and see and get background on anything that we might have an interest in immediately. And back when we were playing, if you wanted to come see a band, you had to go and see the band. You had to buy a ticket 2 weeks in advance and go and wait out in a line and stand and wait for them to show up and wait for them to go on before you knew what you were going to see. And that can be good, but it can also, it can be bad, but it was also usually, if it was a band you loved, then it was an amazing experience to have that opened up that way. It really, it makes you come in, it makes you become part of the community. It makes you be in a moment that is you'll never experience again. That time will never be done again. That it kind of, it's an experience that you can't have now. It's a different idea. You say you want to go to see Vapors of Morphine. Okay, what are they like? Well, here's a video of them playing, in a crappy little bar shot by somebody's iPhone. uh, you know, and it sounds like crap. But oh yeah, okay. Well, it's that's where we are now. So yeah, the technology has changed and has how has that affected? Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of saturation. There's a lot of saturation of music, and it's harder for a lot of young bands to get a foothold up, and get out there. I question whether it's as important as it once was to the culture. There's a certain allegiance to the sound, to the music in terms of your generation that had kind of identifier. It was identified you as a certain type of thinking person, creative person, critical thinker. You align yourself behind the music you listen to, and it was an important part of who you were as human. And I don't know if I know that there are people who feel that way still, because I see them all the time. Does it have as much effect across the board as it did? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I like to think that I am kind of there. Like I myself love to, just go for the first time to hear a band that I never heard of and like just figure out what they are about. And I also try to, even like when I know the band or heard them before, uh, I try as hard as I can to not hear like of any recordings of them live, just to preserve that kind of first impression, first experience for myself. So I would say that I agree with you. I think that that's something that because of technology and like the way things are, like to be super fast, super like kind of the fast foodification of things. Um, sure it's been fewer and fewer, but yeah, we can only hope that our son still left there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there is. I mean, I know my son, he's 18 and he's got his music and playlist. There you have it. But are they that we were driven to go out and see music, to get out there. I couldn't wait to get into a bar and hear a band. I just could not wait to have that experience. And maybe because both my kids grew up with it, so and they're not as you know, and everybody's in a band, so I don't know. It's a little different, I think. There was Boston, for one thing, is kind of spoiled because we have a lot of great bands and great musicians playing every night of the week. And you couldn't keep up. I can't keep up now because I have to be in bed by 9:30 most nights. Tonight I'll be out at 10 to 1, but usually I'm in bed early because I have to work. But you can go out just about any night of the week and see some of the greatest players you'll ever hear. Do people go out and do that? I don't know. Did not as much as they probably would have when they were 22 and wanted to go, get into like a pit or something,
Yeah. Kind of finish this full circle. So, yeah, I mean, I bet like your sons had like a good reference sort of. And would you say like nowadays, because he's like a little bit more older, he's like your partner in crime to go out there and like hearing some good music?
No, yeah, not yet. He's still 18 and so he can't really go into the big rooms
Okay.
until he's 21. So
Oh,
uh,
okay. But
there's times.
not even with you alongside him, they don't.
The restaurants, the bars they kind of have to have food being served in order for that but in some cases, yes. In fact, there's a band here in Boston that we want to see. There's a friend of mine, and we've made a date. We're going to go see him, but he's in California right now, so he's up in Northern California, so going to school.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. That's super interesting because at least here, I mean, as soon as you turn 18, like you are pretty much allowed to anything. So yeah, for one second I totally forgot. But at least when you
We
have
were you were settled by the Portuguese, we were settled by the Puritans. That's why.
your yeah. Nice one. But I didn't knew that even with the parent alongside some in some cases or some situations that it's is not possible still. So wow, that's a new one for me at least.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, he's eligible for the draft, but he couldn't drink in a bar.
Yeah, go figure.
Go figure.
And not talking more about like nowadays and vapors and not like nowadays, but talking about pure fantasy. I wanted to know a little bit more how was like the process of creating that album and even its title.
Yes, so the title, you have to ask Jeremy. He came up with the title. It's
Okay,
it's a translation from a Greek to Greek uh deities, I think. I'll have to get
okay,
his take on that. But we like the idea of fear and fantasy just as it sounded good, and I think it evokes certain ideas and of what you might consider fear you might be afraid of and what you might imagine and as being utopic in some ways. And trying and walking that fine line between the two, just kind of between the joy and the anguish, there's like you just try to keep that thing going down the middle.
yeah, for sure.
You're always afraid of the fantasy too. It seems obtainable because it's fantastic, right? So
Yeah,
we're afraid we're sometimes afraid to reach for things that we dream.
yeah.
So
I asked it because it was something that I'm not sure if like it was me trying to um like trying to find things or it was like something intentional, but I kind of felt a little bit of it like hearing the album itself. I would say that for me at least like my experience of hearing it was kind of like the inverse. I felt the fantasy, and when hearing it, like I felt like the fantasy, like I kind of it led for me to discover that it was a fantasy, like some more utopical thing. And when I kind of understood that what I was feeling was something that doesn't exist, then the fear came. And
wow, that's good. That's good.
yeah, and kind of after all, like because I realized that that was just fantasy and the fear came. But when like for the final half of the album, I felt like within the songs that like because I was led to face reality, I kind of led to a place of more harmony and I could like relate to fantasy again. That was
Mm,
kind of my take on the album and how the sound like the music itself struck me. That's why I asked.
that's good. That's really good. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, that's and I wouldn't change, I wouldn't touch that. I mean, everybody I would encourage to have their own interpretations of whatever it is that music brings to you. I think that's the beautiful thing. It's once we leave it to you, it's up to you, it's yours to experience and hopefully it helps to bring you someplace and that I think that was our goal for this is to kind of transport and create sound worlds, each song and just kind of have fun making sounds, really.
For sure. I think that it kind of also get us to another like full circle moment because it goes back to what we were talking about that like a bunch of guys getting together and creating together and then sending that to the audience that ultimately will take that and add something to it as well. It will create on top of it and you have like this big net of creativity and feelings and emotions. And I think that that's what we call life, right?
I like that. Yeah, it's well, you know what? I hadn't really given it a lot of thought, how it would be interpreted necessarily. It's probably the first conversation I've had with someone who around it because you often just put it out there and you go on, you don't hear back from, oh yeah, I liked it or I didn't, but you don't get the kind of you don't get that kind of response and feedback for what your experience was, for what a listener's experience is really about in terms of why we listen to music. Maybe not even just our record, but music in general is to get into that space that you just described.
Oh, nice. That's nice to hear. I mean, I'm definitely will leave today really happy to have that kind of feeling as well.
Thank you.
And two more questions for you. Promise to be really quick.
Good.
Um, and regarding like when it comes to, your personal life, um, vapors and creating music, like, do you feel that there are still things that you want to experiment, and try out there, like, and even like when it comes to also like the band, you guys are feeling like they're still I would say milestone, but it's not necessarily milestone. There are still things that you guys are like talking about maybe achieving together. Like how is like the vision of like kind of the present future, or that's nothing something that you guys like really think about at all?
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes I think we get into these kind of places in life where we just sort of, we get into a routine, and we do what we did Monday through Friday and do it again. And years go by. Um, so, it's like to have a kind of oversight that you're talking about. I don't know if that's ever been anything I've ever done with anything. It's almost like I'm just sort of exist, wake up in the day, and this is what I'm going to do. It's what I have to do. It's what I want to do. You know, hopefully they balance out, you know, what I have to do when I don't want to do, or then there's what I have to do and I do want to do. And then there's what I just want to do, and
Yeah.
don't have to do. So there's like that's a day gone. Next day, what do we got? And here we are. So it's and sometimes those days are creative days when we get to go in and create something and make something and get into that headspace and put on headphones and go deep into the well and block out everything else. And that's great. That's a good space to be in. I see pictures of people in studios all the time, and you can just see that it's a cherished time for any musician to be. And sometimes it's hard, of course. Sometimes you hit the wall. Sometimes you really, you know, have to kind of reckon with some things. Um, it's a process, but but you can't live there all the time, right? Unless you're Rick Rubin or somebody. So those are days that I have, and then there are days when I have to take out the trash and clean out the basement, you know?
Yeah. In the end of the day, we are creatures of habit and routines, right?
Yeah, that's life. That's what it is. I got a roof on my head for now. I'm grateful for, a family who I love and who love me, um, friends, my family around my extended family. That's life, and we celebrate that every day. And the opportunity to come and travel and play music someplace is like a plus. It's huge. It's a big step into a just fulfilling a life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where we are as humans in this band. We're not, I don't know what vision people have of bands and what their lives are like, outside of when they see them play. But um, from our perspective, it's very much just day to day, being husbands and fathers and friends and dog walkers and,
Mhm.
fixers and cleaner uppers and cookers and.
Yeah. I personally believe that a lot of people take that for granted. I do see a lot of a beauty in that, like on the day-to-day, the routines, like I feel that those are in the end of things like the most treasured sometimes and the precious moments that we have. And like I said, the everything else is like the plus on it, like the really like the cream on the top, but the whole foundation we create on the day-to-day basis, right?
There you go. That's it in a nutshell.
For
Yep.
sure. And then last question for you, and that's more towards your upcoming concert here in Brazil, February the 4th. Um, what do you would you say? What would you say that the fans can expect from this concert? Can you give us a little bit of a spoilers regarding maybe what can they expect from the set? Could we see some deep cuts or regarding maybe morphine related songs and like regarding vapors we will be seeing like
It's the 24th. Yeah. Viente, 24th.
yeah.
Well, I don't know if anybody saw us last time, but we don't have Jerome or Billy with us this time. We have Tom Airy, who's on drums. Uh, Phenomenal drummer, plays with Peter Wolf, who used to be in the band called Jay Giles, a Boston band. He's an extraordinary drummer, and we're very lucky to retain him for this tour. And he's joined the band. He's part of Vapors now. He's on Fear and Fantasy. We're going to play some Morphine songs. We're going to play some African songs. We're going to play some original stuff. We're going to have some jugglers, some sword swallowers, flamethrowers, ballet dances, marching band, elephants, tigers, and bears. unicyclist and a one-armed pole vaulter.
Okay, no capybaras then.
Yes, of course. We'll be having those too.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
a whole herd of them.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, all that stuff aside, that seems like fun, and
Yeah,
yeah,
you got to see this pole vaulter to believe it. Usually it takes two hands to get, but this person one arm.
yeah, yeah. I do feel that I would say we will have like a great time because I will be there for sure to hear you guys playing live. That's something that I'm really looking forward to it and be waiting a lot of time to as well. Didn't have the opportunity on past years when you guys came.
Well,
So
please come by and say hello if you can.
yeah, for sure, I will. You bet.
Good.
You will see probably my shining ball head there in the crowd.
Yeah, well, you might see mine too if you're lucky.
Oh, I mean,
We can send signals. Ready? Do you have Morse code?
yeah. I mean, bald is beautiful. What can I say, right? And
Bald is beautiful. Yeah.
bald is beautiful, yeah. But then I'm really grateful for you for your time. To stick with me a little bit here.
My
It's
pleasure.
not, yeah,
Thank
it's
you for your
not.
interest.
Thanks a lot for having me tonight. It was really a pleasure to talk to you. Break a leg because you're going out today to play a little bit. So
I,
yeah, have an amazing night.
I'm
And
gonna go make a little supper now, a little dinner.
oh, okay, okay,
Okay.
nice. So have a good meal and
Buenas noches.
boa noite. Perfect.
Ciao. Ciao. Ciao.
Fast learner. Ciao.